Behind the fortress-like walls of maximum security facilities, these 10 individuals forged their reputations as some of the most feared and notorious inmates in history. Before we unlock the stories that define their bad title, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, so you never miss a deep dive into the world of interest. Number 10. Shashikala Ramesh Patankar. Shashikala Ramesh Patankar is one woman who discovered the easy money that came from peddling drugs. She gave up her job of a milkmaid and blended into Mumbai's notorious drug circuit in no time. After dealing in drugs for nearly a decade, she amassed property worth over Rs 100 crore from the business. Baby Patankar was finally arrested by the Mumbai police in 2015. Number 9. Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. H. Holmes, byname of Herman Mudgett, American swindler and confidence trickster who is widely considered the country's first known serial killer. Mudgett was born into a wealthy family and showed signs of high intelligence from an early age. Always interested in medicine, he allegedly trapped animals and performed surgery on them. Some accounts of his life even suggest that he killed a childhood playmate. Mudgett attended medical school at the University of Michigan, where he was a mediocre student. In 1884, he was nearly prevented from graduating when a widowed hairdresser accused him of making a false promise of marriage to her. In 1886, Mudgett moved to Chicago and took a job as a pharmacist under the name Dr. H. Holmes. Soon afterward, he apparently began killing people in order to steal their property. The house he built for himself, which would become known as Murder Castle, was equipped with secret passages, trapdoors, soundproof rooms, doors that could be locked from the outside, gas jets to asphyxiate victims, and a kiln to cremate the bodies. At the reputed peak of his career, during the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago in 1893, he allegedly seduced and murdered a number of women, typically by becoming engaged to them, and then killing them after securing control of their life savings. Mudgett also required his employees to carry life insurance policies, naming him as beneficiary, so that he could collect money after he killed them. He sold the bodies of many of his victims to local medical schools. Holmes was hanged on May 7, 1896. Number 8. The Nathari Killers. Serial killer Maninder Singh Pandar and his domestic help Surinder Kohli were sentenced to death in connection with one of the 16 murder cases in the Nathari killings case. The Nathari killings came to light with the discovery of 8 skeletal remains of children from the drain of a house in Nathari, Noida. There are accusations of everything from cannibalism, pedophilia, and rape to organ trafficking. Number 7. Mary Mallon, also known as Typhoid Mary. She is known to have infected 51 people, and 3 of those illnesses resulted in death. While she carried an extremely contagious bacteria that caused typhoid fever, Mary continued to work as domestic worker and cooked for people, because of which many were infected. Back in the medical facilities for treating an ailment like typhoid was extremely inefficient, and she apparently knew about her illness before infecting hundreds. Mallon spent the last 23 years of her life as a virtual prisoner in forced isolation. Number 6. Dennis Rader aka BTK. Dennis Rader called himself BTK, meaning bind 'em, torture 'em, kill 'em. He was one of the most diabolical serial killers in American history. With each and every victim that he tortured, he made sure to have an elaborate photography session and kept it tucked away in a secret basement. According to reports, when he launched his first vicious attack in 1974 on the Otero family, he didn't even know how to kill and literally tortured them to death. After his first stint with murder, he went on to kill nearly 10 people. BTK was eventually convicted and punished for each death in 2005, and there's a bone-chilling video where he confesses to all his gory deeds. He is currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences at the El Dorado Correctional Facility. Number 5. Rodney Alcala. Also known as the dating game killer, Alcala got a sick thrill from photographing his victims, mostly attractive young women, after murdering them and putting their corpses in distorted postures. He is said to have killed at least nearly 130 women. He was arrested and sentenced to death in 1980. Number 4. John Wayne Gacy, a real-life Pennywise clown. You must have all heard of the 2017 Hollywood blockbuster It. The movie is actually based on John Wayne Gacy. Gacy started off performing as a clown to entertain children and raise money for charity. He named himself Pogo the Clown, but under this colorful clown avatar was a remorseless criminal. Gacy was a rapist and a torturer, and was convicted of killing 33 teenage boys and young men between January 1972 and late 1978. He was executed with a lethal injection in the late 1994. Number 3. Aileen Wuornos. This woman was no less than a monster. Aileen Wuornos was involved in the cold-blooded murder of 7 men between 1989 and 1990. She would usually blame the men she dated of rape and shoot them at point-blank range. According to reports, Wuornos was convicted and sentenced to death and was executed by lethal injection. Number 2. The Red Ripper. Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo was a Soviet serial killer nicknamed the Butcher of Rostov, a Rostov Ripper, and the Red Ripper, who sexually assaulted, murdered, and mutilated at least 52 women and children between 1978 and 1990 in the Russian SFSR, the Ukrainian SSR, and the Uzbek SSR. Chikatilo confessed to 56 murders. He was tried for 53 murders in April 1992. He was convicted and sentenced to death for 52 of these murders in October 1992. Although the Supreme Court of Russia ruled in 1993 that insufficient evidence existed to prove his guilt in 9 of those killings, Chikatilo was executed by gunshot in February 1994. Chikatilo was known as the Rostov Ripper and the Butcher of Rostov because he committed most of his murders in the Rostov Oblast of the Russian SFSR. Number 1. The Eyeball Man. The Eyeball Man Jason Barnum was sentenced to 22 years in prison for shooting an Alaska police officer. Barnum's offenses were driven by a serious heroin addiction, reports The Independent. What made him seem even more dangerous was his tattoo-filled visage. Barnum had one of his eyeballs, yes, his eyeball, completely tattooed.